We are looking at the Grusha Vashnadzi case study now. Apologies if I butchered that name. Let's scroll down and read that first question. Question 1. Medici's current cost of preferred equity is closest to. All right, let's scroll up and we'll start reading until we get to that information we need for cost of preferred equity. Typically, the two variables we're going to need for that are the dividend or yield on the preferred equity and then the price that's trading at. Grusha Vashnadzi is an analyst working at Falcone Investments. A client has approached Falcone to value a potential target, Medici Automotives. Grusha has been tasked with estimating Medici's cost of debt and cost of equity as a starting point for determining Medici's valuation and WACC, or weighted average cost of capital. Grusha notes the following essential information. So we've got the company, and then looks like Porter's 5 forces or some version of that. So business model, industry, nature of assets, and then revenues. Medici has reported significantly higher sales and profits. Medici's management has decided that it needs to replace most of its equipment and integrate a new system that it believes will increase accuracy and efficiency. To finance this project, they secured a loan of $700 million from a financial institution payable in 5 years. Current capital structure is presented in Exhibit 1. So we got type of capital. We've got common equity, preferred equity, that's what we're looking for, and debt. So we've got preferred equity, it's 10% of the capital structure, that's not relevant. And then information. So redeemable at a par value of $1,000 per share. Dividend yield is 8%. Current share price is $860, and they're frequently traded. So we've got the variables we need, and this is going to be a pretty straightforward calculation. So our cost of preferred equity is going to be that dividend divided by the price. So our dividend is going to be 0.08 or 8% times the par value. So that'll be $80. And then we're going to divide that by the price of $860. So we get 0.093 or 9.3%, which is going to be right here. Answer B. Question 2. Medici's cost of common equity using the Fama-French 5-factor model is closest to. So let's read until we get to that 5-factor model info. It looks like it's going to be right here, but let's read this paragraph before we dig into that. We left off right under Exhibit 1. Grusha uses the Fama-French 5-factor model and CAPM to estimate Medici's cost of equity by regressing Medici's excess returns on the relevant risk factors. A 15-year government benchmark rate of 3% is used as a risk-free proxy. Exhibit 2 contains details on factor betas from FF5 and CAPM. So our 5 factors here, we're going to have the market factor, and then we're going to have value, size, profitability, and investment. So basically what we need to do to figure out our cost of common equity using this model is we're going to multiply these factors by the risk premium. So essentially we're going to multiply these two and then multiply these two, multiply these two, and then we're going to add all those up at the end, and then we're going to also add in that risk-free rate of 3%. And so the reason that works out is we're regressing those excess returns. So we're basically taking the risk-free rate, and then we're adding on the market return that we'll expect to get, and then our sensitivity to those additional risk premiums or excess returns. So that's what this formula down here is basically saying. So we're going to take our risk-free rate, and then we're going to add our beta of the market multiplied by that risk premium, which is going to be these two numbers right here. And then we can just kind of do that down the line. So we're going to take our beta to size, which is essentially our sensitivity to size, so small minus big, then multiply, so that's going to be 0.5, and then multiply that by the 2%, and so on down the line. And essentially what that gets us, when we multiply that out, is 0.0952 or 9.52%, which is going to be right there, answer A. Question 3. Medici's cost of common equity using CAPM is closest to. So we don't need to read any further from this. After last question, we got to Exhibit 2, which has all the information that we're going to need. So for the CAPM, that formula is going to be our risk-free rate plus our market beta multiplied by the market risk equity risk premium, which is essentially market return minus the risk-free rate. And so we are given all those variables, which makes this calculation pretty straightforward. I'll pull this over here so we have room. So we get risk-free rate of 3%, and then we're going to multiply that by beta times the equity risk premium. So it's basically just this first row up here, and that leads us to a value of 0.0633 or 6.33%, which is going to correspond right here with answer B. Question 4, which one of the following is most likely a disadvantage that Grusha may experience by electing to use arithmetic mean as opposed to using geometric mean in equity risk premium estimation? So let's read this last paragraph. I don't know if we need any information to answer this, but let's still read it. Grusha estimates Medici's cost of equity using the BYPRP approach, where she assumes a historical risk premium of 5.6% earned by equity investors relative to long-term yield from corporate bonds. Her manager is curious about how Grusha arrived at an ERP of 4.5% in her cost of equity estimation. Grusha explains that she used the traditional approach using an arithmetic mean and the short-term government bill rate. So, which of the following is a disadvantage of using arithmetic over geometric? So we've got A, easy to calculate. So we can rule that out. That's not a disadvantage. That's actually an advantage. Since it's just a simple average, you can take your numbers and then divide by the number of observations. Geometric mean is a little more calculation intensive. B, considers all time series observations. Again, this is going to be an observation this is going to be an advantage being able to consider all the time series observations. So that leaves us with C, overestimates the expected terminal value of wealth, and that is going to be correct. And the reason for that is compounding. And so I'm going to pull in a example here, and it's going to be a little bit of a dramatic example, but just kind of illustrate how this can work out. So for this example, we'll assume returns over the 3-year period are positive 30%, then we lose 30%, and then we go up 20%. So arithmetic mean is going to be pretty straightforward. We take 30 minus 30 plus 20, and then we're going to divide that by 3. So this is our average return over that period is 6.66666 in infinity. And then our geometric return is where we take into account compounding. So we're going to multiply 1.3 times 0.7 times 1.2, and then we do that to the third root in order to get our annualized compounded return, which then we subtract out 1 and then multiply by 100 to get it in percentage terms. So that gets us to just under 3%. So we see this pretty dramatic spread here. We're looking at an average return of almost 7%, but our compounded return that we actually realize is only 3%. And that's because that volatility really can hurt our compounded returns over time. And so that's why arithmetic can kind of overstate that expected terminal value of wealth. If we thought we were getting average returns of 7, but we're actually getting compound of 3, that's going to lead to dramatically different results in reality. Answer C.